got to fulfill the book. Won't you hear to sing these songs of freedom? Is all I ever had. Redemption song, redemption song, redemption song. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Oh, have no fear for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop us the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Yes, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you hear to sing these songs of freedom? It's all I ever had. Redemption song, all I ever had. Redemption song, these songs of freedom, songs of freedom.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more.
The recording has started.
MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in the 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay. We'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. The tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn, and your daughters visit doctors so their children will be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear, be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now, as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Karnke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, west, southeast, north, and northwest. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com in memoriam, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike Technologies, east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson and Conus, along with the outlying 2 states, 2 territories, and the clock. It is 5:08 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Friday, it's Cinco de Mayo Day and Quartermaster Friday. It is the 31st of January. Dun, dun, dun. That's 13 backwards. Oh, there's symbolism there. 13, January 20. That means nothing. It's the 31st. Oh, that's right. Okay, darn. Anyway, what it could be, you don't know. Anyway, just more on that in a minute. In 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist Occupation of America with a K, 2020. Old Earth calendar, 2020, year of conflict, year of betrayal, year of battle. And we're through the first month almost. Here we are. Oh, look at that. 3/1 Jan 20. That's regular military day. You guys know that. JAN, first three letters. Depending on what year you are, half of your documents had to have, the day, the three letters, capitals, and the year. 78, 98, 08, 2020, in this case 20, okay? So, and the doofuses in the system would change that constantly. Some had to be the regular alphanumeric, some had to be spelled out, some had to be abbreviated, and it was part of the religion of the bureaucracy. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. Oh, yay. You know how it is. So anyway, couple things going on here real quick. Number one, it is Quartermaster Friday, but I do have a few other announcements about activities on the ground. It's being surveyed. We'll have tons of pictures. We also have aerial reconnaissance going on. But the bad guys are definitely deployed, and they've been deployed during the week, not on the weekend. No, it's not National Guard. No, it's not the usual stuff. We're very familiar with the usual stuff. Worked as a trainer for a long time, okay? We really do know how to, kind of sift through the bugs in the flour here in this case. So, Quartermaster Friday real quick, and I've got to double check this. So I'm doing this on the fly. I did not get a chance to get into this before the program started. And of course, now all of a sudden, come on, there we go. I was going to say, Classic Firearms. Before we go any farther, let's just see what they have for their deal of the day, because they have had some phenomenal deals of the day over the last couple of days. Not bad. If you need the bottom end of an AR-15 and you're looking to put it together, the back end, mil-spec, 6-position stock set, buffer tube, spring, buffer plate nut, buffer, plate nut, 223 carbine rifle kit, $34.99. You say $4. That's okay. They did well for the rest of the week. This is okay, but, you could do better. But not bad, because it comes with the buffer tube. So that's neat. Okay, we got a caller. Who do we have?
Yeah, Mike. I have a question about the mask you were talking about for 11.95 or something last night.
I'm going to those, as a matter of fact, next. So go ahead and ask your question while I am typing.
What's the .com or whatever?
Sportsmansguide.com. www.sportsmansguide.com. And that's www.sportsmansguide.com. When you get there, go to, again, just punch in as a search, gas mask. Just gas mask. You don't have to do anything else. And then, once we get that in there, let's see. They still have them. They're $11.69 a piece. They have...
SoundCloud is only music, by the way.
Just to double check for Edward there. What feed are you listening in on, or trying to?
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud. Edward, SoundCloud, apparently generating music, not broadcast.
Just 1, 2, 3. It wasn't just SoundCloud. I took care of both feeds just now. Give it a minute, it'll catch up.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Everything's on hiccup. There we go. Thank you, sir. And for our callers, anytime it happens, give us a heads up. You never know. It might be something where we're not hearing it. Oh, they do have a 7th mask. So they've lost a couple other items because they've condensed the page to one page now. Anyway, these are over at Sportsman's Guide. They're on the second tier, left-hand side. They are, again, the Polish military surplus MP4 gas mask with bag, new/old inventory, new, $11.69. Now, these are a counterpart to the M17, which is U.S., the M10M, which is slightly different, but the other Warsaw Pact masks. This one fascinates me because all the specs look pretty stinking close to a standard M17, and I've said this before, we armed our enemies so they could kill us. And this happened nonstop with the traders in Washington and the ones playing the big game overall. And the M17 is probably the best example. As this mask was being replaced by others, or as one company may have lost the contract, I think they were allowed to slide the technology, the molds over the Iron Curtain, through the Iron Curtain, bump. You and I get shot for going over that. But these big corporations, oh yeah, dumping something like that over there, and yeah, you guys, we'll build it for you guys. You just give us a fee, and for copyrights, and yeah, sure. Now, a lot of times they didn't worry about that much about that back and forth. Example, most of the Eastern Bloc M9 copies, which are from Serbia or from, as we just saw, the ones in Hungary, the Hungarian that just sold out. They're all coming from the same source, Nokia, typically from Finland and other production facilities associated with Nokia's manufacturing in the northern part of Europe. And some of those are in demi-neutral countries. Always remember that. In this case, this Polish military surplus MP4 gas mask, if the M17 filters don't fit, they do have, wait a minute, I shouldn't say that. That's what happened. Somebody bought up their filters, their copy filters for the Polish mask. So the only mask, they don't have the filters at that site, but they do have the masks. Now, a little heads up on that one. If the M17 filters do fit the Polish MP4, which I'm going to find out shortly, I've already got samples coming of this particular model. I'm going to let everybody know on the air. But it still is a handout mask. You get everything you need to put the mask together. It's $11.69. It is a serviceable mask. Okay, it's
so
workable.
This mask doesn't actually come with filters already in it?
Yes, it does come with filters. That's what I just said. This comes with filters, but there are no spares. They had spares last night when we did the program. Since we've done the program, they sold out of spares at Sportsman's Guide. Now, the good thing is other companies have this mask, and they also have the filters. So we can get them from other spots. But I will repeat again, the American filters for the M17 may fit in this mask. If they do, and they lock in, then we can take advantage of a very large inventory of M17 parts and filters where there aren't as many of the masks out there. Okay, so the good thing is there's lots of spare parts because they didn't destroy all the spare parts. And they didn't destroy all the filters. They just beat the snot and destroyed all of the M17 U.S. masks that they could. I know. I've got pictures I can show you. And it's not just one part of the country.
It's similar enough to where if you have the original booklet, okay, that when you have an issue mask, your pouch, you got your little MBC kit that goes on the outside of the pouch, but you got your care booklet for it. Are they so similar that you could use the care booklet?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I believe so.
I don't for the Polish M4.
Yeah, the M17 manual really would work for this because the big difference between the M10M and the M17 and this MP4 is the way that the filters are affixed into the cheeks. On the Polish, they have a very convenient threaded lockdown system where the little pre-filters are. There's one on each side. Most people always wonder, where are the filters on these? Well, they are literally built into the cheeks. Now, the 40 millimeter and the 60 millimeter externals are a lot more convenient for quick trade out. But they're also mostly more expensive by about twice the price. I can get 2 of these masks for the price of 1 of all the others. In fact, I can get 3 of these masks for the price of most of the others that are out there, which means I can have more masks laying around and I could have spare masks on hand, not just filters. I could actually have the whole mask, which is what you would do with these anyway. The advantage is, for instance, the infantry manual that we have, the militia field manual, SOP, the mask that's in there is the M17. All of the questions and issues about the M17 would be identical with regard to operation with the MP4 Polish mask or the the M10M. This MP4 is as close a copy as I've seen so far of the M17 mask, but it would be perfect because, again, even the way they built their bag is quite similar to the way the M17 bag was built for our side of the water. They use snaps instead of dot keepers. That's a big difference as far as the keepers go for the flap for the bag. And in fact, you could take this mask and use a brand new M17 gas mask bag and you go American. Go with an American bag. There's no reason not to. Not that this bag looks like it's bad. It looks like it's a pretty serviceable piece of equipment. But again, If you're American trained and you're trained in the traditional format, the way to use the M17, although you guys are older, you'd be completely familiar with this mask. Everything operates the same way. Even getting it out of the bag operates the same way. You rip the bag open, you reach in, pull the mask out, grasp the suspension system, run your chin into the mask first, pull the mask over the head, blow, and then inhale. First of all, blow. You cover your port so that it blows all of the seals out, and then cover the intakes and suck in real quick, and that performs the rest of the seal. It's very straight. Any instruction you see on the M17 would work with this mask. So if you got any instruction videos on YouTube that are for the M17 gas mask, all of the basic instructions for use would be pretty much the same. I can't see any significant difference, and you'd be easily able to understand the English counterpart to this. So, the English-speaking instructor who's a U.S. military sergeant or a training officer or whoever they had doing the video, whoever they had doing the original training films. So it would work just fine. The big thing here, again, is that the other masks, which are all good masks, there's nothing here I wouldn't use the least in a pecking order. The first and best, let's see what they have here. If you're going by age and pecking order, the Israeli military M15 is the highest grade mask in the inventory that's over at Sportsman's Guide. That's $53. Well, no, $54 because it's $53.99. The next masks up are a toss-up, but if it were a matter of modern and also basic features, the next one is the Serbian military M2, but that's $31.49. It's a good mask, takes 40-millimeter filters, so it's, up to date with everything else that's out there. The next two masks that are actually the three that are parallel, but the ones that people would prefer, I know why, because of the external filter, would be the Finnish military surplus gas mask, which, by the way, the front end is actually set up for cold weather operations right away. It's different from the other masks for that reason. $25.19. And then there's also the Serbian military M1, which is complete, and that's a Nokia mask made by the same people for $36. Now, parallel with that is this Polish mask for $11.69. So basically, you can at least 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 and get more people with a gas mask on their face quick for the price. Is it the only solution? No, there's other ones here. You spend a little more, you get a little more. Now, the last mask of the bunch, I mentioned this last night, the Hungarian military surplus gas mask. They don't give a designation for it. It's a Cold War era mask. It works, but it's not. It's comparable to the World War II, Korea, to Cold War era masks in terms of design. It does take a 40-millimeter filter, and it's $9.49. So if everything else runs out and that's the only thing that's left, let me point out, you get a mask, you get a cheap bag, and you get a brand new filter for $9.49. So you get a mask for a gimme price. If you look at what the price of filters are, that mask even is worth it if the filters start to run out and you're looking for spare filters. You buy the cheap mask, you get the mask, you get a carry bag, but you get a spare filter for your other gas masks. Oh, that's cheating. No, that's what we had to do every time they've run out of filters. So just a little heads up there. I would also point out a lot of the Cold War or civil defense masks do not have voice emitters. What is a voice emitter? It's a resonator that's in the front of the mask that allows you to project your voice from outside the mask so you don't sound like this when you're talking, which is something that's kind of handy when you're trying to give orders or communicate because something's going on. It's typical that with the Warsaw Pact and Eastern European, they didn't believe that the privates needed to talk to each other. Only the sergeants and the officers needed to shout orders at the people who were following orders. They weren't supposed to talk back. So that's why the masks were built that way, okay? And that was the ORC policy. Remember, I've told you this many times, with the Jewish communists running the operation, you're all Goyim/orcs, and they're cracking the whip on they're orc drivers. They're cracking the whip on the peasants. So you don't need to talk back. They don't even want to hear you scream when you die horribly because of their mismanagement. That's probably the most important reason with why they did what they did. So anyway, again, these are over at sportsmansguide.com. They are $11.69. They're not the only mask of that type out there, and you can find other companies that have gas masks. I'm just pointing at these because they're a reasonable price, and again, they may be fully integratable with most all of our American components. I would point out the M17 gas mask hood will fit perfectly on that mask. So there's an item right there that's cheaper than most because there aren't that many M17s around. There's a lot of them. I've got many, but only so many because most were destroyed. But the hoods are still out there in force, brand new, in the foil wrapper, never issued. You pop open the brown paper with the foil on the inside, brand new, fresh hood. You mount it on this gas mask, away you go. Happy camper time. Okay, so solutions, not just complaining about the problems. And there is only one page. They have sold a bunch of other items, which we can expect. I figure maybe by the middle of next week, as everybody starts shutting down their connections to China, guys, a lot of people are thinking they were going to buy China Sport because it would be cheaper. But China isn't necessarily going to be able to ship anything if everybody's worried about, cross-contamination issues. So the American inventory, even if it's foreign surplus, is basically what you got, and whatever's in country already. Okay, now I got that out, and it took a little longer. It is 5:25. Attention, attention, attention. We have a series of deployments we have been monitoring for the last couple of weeks, but specifically in the last couple of days during the middle of the week. These are not National Guard. These are not Reserve as far as we know, only in that they are active during the week. It's not a weekend training drill. It's not a normal 2-week training cycle of any kind. And for our friends listening, including some of our guys in mid-Michigan, watch your back 40. Now, in a lot of areas, Pontiac, Michigan, we have some activity there. Northern Oakland County, we have some activity there. Oscoda, definitely some accelerated traffic in and out of the area there as far as the casual traffic, which they think we don't notice. It has increased. But in other locations, we have boots on the ground, camouflage uniforms, groups of 6, 8 men in location, security/tactical vehicles deployed, camouflage. Also, either containers or armored vehicles that have been fully covered with camouflage tarps. They're well camouflaged. Minimally, though, they haven't done a whole lot to blossom out the covers. They've just made sure that the equipment, the containers, or the technological equipment, or the weapon systems have been covered with basic camouflage tarps. The areas that we're looking at, we're going to keep this general because we have people that are monitoring. We're doing a 24-hour monitor for 72 hours. So far, we have seen them during daylight and nighttime operational hours. So this is not like a daytime drill thing, and everybody goes back to the center and then goes home or goes to the hotel rooms. They are deployed on site. And most of the locations are places that we have been watching for quite some time. We actually do pay attention to our backyards, okay? Many of these areas they have actually brought in and improved by thickening the surface, the road areas, 2-3 feet deep with limestone. These areas can handle the heaviest machinery you'd want to move cross-country. The complexes are in the middle of and taking up the areas of the back sections of what are the agricultural or border area of the metropolitan areas. They're not out by the road. They're not parked out by the street. They're actually in the sections away from the main road nets, but they can still observe. How do we know of their motion? Well, the farther north you go, we have snow on the ground. So not only have we confirmed that we have them on the ground, but we can show that they, from the air, we can show, and on the ground, we can show their patrolling pattern for the areas that they are presently securing. The snow is a telltale. Where they've been walking and where they've been regularly moving along the perimeter of the areas that they control, the pathways are pretty well beaten. We know that they're observing and watching for individuals who might be identifying that there's a threat because in one case they were looking back at us, looking back at them. Okay? In this case, the Midland area, St. Louis area, also up towards Ludington is another area that we're doing a quick spot check on. That may be just a suspect issue, but the way we've already seen these things develop, Northern Oakland County, Pontiac, Michigan, Flint in the industrial areas, 2 of them, Midland, St. Louis, or at least traveling through St. Louis. Same group probably that's active. We've seen them on the ground twice. These are in good numbers also. And again, they are doing a pretty good job of actually at least ensuring that whatever is sensitive is being camouflage covered. It's not necessarily being blossomed out. They don't have the spreaders and everything else to make it look more natural and roll. They're just not wanting people, I think, to be able to see. And they figure most of the population is brain dead. If you have 80%, you only use about 80% of your observational skills at best, and most use far less. So just covering the equipment they felt probably was enough. Now, that doesn't mean in other areas of the same area of activity that there aren't pods, shelters, and other pieces of equipment and material that are covered appropriately with camouflage netting. But the mobile elements or the peripheral security elements, they've at least made an effort to conceal more effectively with camouflage tarps and coverings and nets that will blend in better with the terrain. So this is happening right now. Again, watch your back 40. Don't watch the roads. I mean, pay attention. But if you have access areas that have been developed by industrial complex, everything from the oil companies to any of the manufacturing sites that have been knocked down, that's one of the things we're seeing in the Flint area. It's very easy to spot when there's no traffic. And again, with snow, you can also identify the foot traffic. This is why we know how large an area they are patrolling in 3 of the locations. Now, this is also during the week, not on the weekend. And I'm sure they're going to be operating through the weekend, but the initial activity that was confirmed was in the middle of the week. So for somebody who goes, oh, it's probably the National Guard. Well, if they are drilling during their 2-week period for January of, January/winter, we'll find out. It is not likely because they're not in the appropriate uniforms.
Hey, Mark.
So heads up on that. Go ahead, caller, jump in there.
Yeah, this is Mike from Ohio. What uniform did you say they were wearing again?
Well, that's just it. From a distance, it looks like they've got either a Marpat type or they've got maybe again, they were looking at them from approximately half a mile away, although there were some so close they could smell their aftershave.
That kind of makes sense from what I was thinking. The Navy's wears, woodland uniform that's almost identical to the Marine Marpat.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
now what the Public Health Service, which is one of the uniform services, is now wearing that uniform. So it could be the Public Health Service having something to do with this possible, virus that people are talking about.
Pre-deploying. Well, these are pre-deployed. This equipment, and this is an aggressive element. This is the security element.
Oh, okay.
This is separate from whatever is the core area. This is the peripheral security of whatever's happening at the core of the activity. And again, we have air surveillance going on. The pictures are already taken. I just are in my hands at this moment. I already had 2 verbal reports, and we were trying to decide if we wanted to move in today. I actually would have probably been doing this program from the field, but as it is, they had a little bit of weather come in, so we're not going to draw too much attention because in bad weather we can get closer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we understand, first of all, what their trails of activity, what their motion and activity is. However, what's interesting about a couple of these sites is that these were developed, and we suspected that, again, it didn't make any sense. They were shutting down the areas for the normal activity, but they fully reinforced and beefed up quite heavily the ground areas in preparation for use. We're talking miles worth of roads done with limestone the size of half of your fist, brought in 3 and 4 feet deep, wide enough for a semi-truck to pass either way, or a very large extra-wide load to move into the area. And this was all done in a situation where, of course, the locals were told, and the police were even, the sheriff's department was told, that the area was cycling down, there wasn't going to be more activity, it was already going to be natural, it's going to be like parkland. Well, that's not what they did. In fact, they did exactly the opposite. Well, now this is panning out because that's where they're deploying. So I think it's a combination of things. Number one, the stuff that they're getting hit with right now is, as has been admitted, is a SARS variant. We already know the scare they did with SARS before, and they also told you millions were going to die, billions were going to die, blah, 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 blah. Let's put it this way. We should be looking at preventive and defense. They're talking about just keeping your throat moist. Here's an idea. Silver. How about you guys preempt with silver, ionic, or any of the standard silvers, colloidal, that you can either make or you can buy. You should have that and be using it every day. Here's another idea.
Me this summer. Because just in August I got a viral like a pneumonia. They couldn't even identify it, and I was I mean, I was in bad shape for about a month, but I hammered ginger and silver, and I think that's what got me through it.
And that's another one. Ginger is a good. Ginger, turmeric, and garlic just by themselves, just as a supplement. The detox formula, which, by the way, we've been making copies and sending out, we'll read it out over the air here again so it's in the archive, too. Most important is we just get it out. I just sent some to one of our friends that we mixed up. We're going to make another batch up here, and you let it cure is what you do. It never gets outdated. But it is a combination of all of the basic herbs in addition to ionic silver, which we've used in place of colloidal silver. Ionic is finer. We'll get through the cell membrane. It'll do a better job. Water Oz is where you want to go for that. Water Oz. They have ionic silver. They also have ionic gold and all the other ionic minerals. They're the original ionic source. Water Oz. And we have all the information. In fact, Nancy is a distributor. If we can't get through to them, I know we can get through to them, and we could order silver for anybody who needs if they want ionic silver from Water Oz. I may have her come up here in the next second hour and have her go over that very quickly, too. Another thing, I've talked about this. Guys, we've silver in our teeth for a reason. So I use silver for, like, for instance, if you get a piercing, why don't you use pot metal? Why don't you use copper? Kind of oxidizes, but silver kills any bacteria on contact. It's a shotgun. It's not a counter virus or a counter bacteria of any kind. It is a shotgun. Boom! It shoots whatever it hits. That's why it works so well. So there's an old trick they used to use with water and with water barrels on water wagons. $7 silver in the water. Basically, the silver was breaking down and obviously was purifying, killing the bacteria in the barrel. And when you got to the other end, you had a grub stake of $7 in each one of the water barrels, something to spend. But it was part of the water purification system that nobody talks about. It's another reason prospecting people that have metal detectors get excited when they're around any of the old western areas and they see a water barrel or it looks like a cask of some kind. If it's a water barrel, it may have just been left behind in whatever wreckage. There could be those nice little $7 silver of whatever year the barrel was put together. The barrel was made into a water barrel, and you got yourself some money there, which is kind of cool. Another thing real quick before I forget on that note, while the masks are nice, the paper masks are polite, remember if we get into a situation where they decide to just hit the siren, so to speak, wearing a gas mask is far superior to anything else you can do. And considering that the doctors are saying that it's not air, it's not breathing that gets you, that the disease can be commuted through the eyes, which means that eye protection is a priority anyway. And we've talked about this. There's all kinds of solutions just for that for everyday use. A lot of the razor glasses and little micro goggles that are out there are cheap. They're affordable. They work, and they'll keep pretty much all the crud, including just everyday air dirt, out of your system, which is not a bad thing. So that's something you need to be looking forward to right now. You need to be thinking about. I've had a bunch of questions on chem suits. Guys, chem suits got hit about, 2 years ago, and nobody has ever fully recovered their inventory. Nobody has anything like what they used to have. U.S. military surplus chem suit is $20 for the OD green ones. Those are the charcoal filter type. You're familiar with it if you're U.S. military. $20.69, and they do have them in a size range. They also have the Dutch military slick side, rubberized NBC chem suits. Those are good. Both of these are good systems. And they have apparently just size large, which is good because that'll fit more people. You can always put a big suit on a small person. It's kind of hard to stretch it over your hind end if you need bigger. So just a heads up on that. And those are olive green. Yes, they also work as a rain suit too, but I think I'd save them for the more important mission of keeping the crud off of you when the time comes. Let's see. Next, rubber gloves. Somebody's just asking here, what about rubber gloves? Where do we go? Well, any number of sources. Number one, I would remind you, if things get really thin, First of all, Walmart does have rubber gloves. What's the quality of them? Well, the cheapy ones are going to be porous. The Chinese are really garbage about maintaining standards on any of the cheapy gloves. Every once in a while, you're going to get a pinhole here or a prick there that you don't really want. If you spend money on the more reliable or heavier acid handling or chemical handling gloves, they're black. It's basically what the military uses. You can find them at industrial resupply or industrial supply points all over the place. They have to be sealed because they have to be certified as PPE, personal protective equipment. You want to prioritize that. Now, you use anything when the time comes. If you think that you have to suspect, say, the rubber gloves you have to use, get inspection gloves of whatever model you can get your hands on. Put a pair of those on. Put the cloth glove on. Oh, you didn't know you're supposed to have a cloth like a sateen glove inside your rubber glove? Well, Mark's teaching you something. That way you can get that stinking rubber glove off later when it's contaminated, rather than you having to fight it and stretch it and splash stuff all over the place. Then you insert your hand into the rubber glove, the better quality one, or whatever quality you got. It's just you're going to have to live with it. And, go do what you got to do, whatever your mission is, okay? Rubber boots of any kind, booties will work. The Army presently, the new ones are black. The other ones, they're both green and black now in the system. The rain boot that presently they're issuing, the green with the stretchy rubber bungee cord, it's sealed in the front, technically is also the NBC boot. So if you run into those at resale shops, they're good enough. But any rain boot will do, will actually accomplish the mission. So anyway, with the chem suits, there's mainmilitary.com. Got to mention them before I go any farther. As long as we're on, this is supply and support, so this is quartermaster related, okay? If you go over to Main Military, see what they have there. I know a lot of people have asked. I like the British Mark IIIs. I really do. The Mark IV system is what replaced it. It's more like our U.S. kit. However, the material is still the viscous membrane, both for the Mark III and Mark IV British/NATO. I like the Anorak because the British also consider their chemical protection gear as cold weather gear, so they built it accordingly, okay? Let's see if they have what they do have. I haven't looked today because I know they've been selling stuff too. I already talked to them. Really? Okay, let's try this again. There we go. Well, it's acting up and hiccuping on us. Okay, chem suits. Let's see what they have left. They do have British chemical suit, DPM. That's a Mark IV. And those are $12.99, but I got a bad feeling about size. Mediums. They have mediums. Okay, that's all they have, medium. They don't have anything else. They do have gas mask hoods. Guess what? The hoods you need for those gas masks sitting right here. Rubber gloves, they do have in stock, and they did have a bigger deal, but still, 12-pack, they're smalls, are $19.99. 12-pack of mediums are $19.99. These are U.S. mil spec. You can also buy individual pairs for $2. Buy a bundle and get them for less. You're going to use them anyway. By the way, if you have to deal with bodies, especially contaminated or broken down because of rot, all this chemical gear is really a good idea for you to use anyway. So for those of you who haven't thought through on what might happen in the way of all the fun disasters that, man-made that the idiot sticks can come up with, remember the chem suit, especially the Slick Slide or the Slick Side or the DuPont or, the Tyvek work really well when you have to deal with moving bodies. People can get kind of fluidy. You don't want any of that effluvia on you. We are our worst poison to other people. Always remember that. And for that reason, this is another why you want gas masks and the rest of protection technology. You're going to have to deal with casualties or with mass casualties in areas where you have to clean an area back up, especially if it's your piece of real estate. You're trying to take back however many yards, however many parts of a town. You're going to have to deal with bodies. Check chem suits. They are Select One. Well, looks like they do have them in theory. They have them in stock. They don't actually say Select One, but then there's nothing to select. Okay, I'll select one. There we go. Let's see if we can add it to the cart. Oh, okay. We have to find out about shipping options. I'm sorry. So the check suit is, they're now apparently thinking it's heavy enough that you have to confirm because of the shipping issue. So you probably need to call. Let's see, previous item. No, I don't need to do that. We'll have to call. I would recommend calling Maine Military. Apparently they do have them in stock, but I do not know. I believe it's the shipping that is the issue right now because they are heavy. A lot of people are ordering more than one chem suit, so that's a lot of heavy. Just like I told you before with these places that have free shipping like Sportsman's Guide, like on the body armor. Guys, if you order 10, 12, 20 vests at a time like we have, when it's free shipping, that's a lot of money you just saved. Okay? I just want to remind you of that. So that's part of the balance when you're looking at all these prices is confirm shipping to see what the distribution costs are. Remember, there's also tax on shipping now. You probably didn't know that if you haven't done a lot of it, but yeah, they're trying to find any way they can to milk money out of everybody, every direction they can. And it's continuing to get worse. Other than that, decontamination materials. Somebody said, Mike mentioned the decon kits, or at least that's what you identified them as. Yeah, the little decon kits are out there. You're going to have to search around. Best bet is to go to any of your search engines, punch in military chemical decontamination kits. You will find a number of different options, including private sellers. You have to make a choice there. If they're in your area, rather than have them ship it, I go get it from them. They claim they have them. Go buy them. Go buy them if you feel comfortable, but go get them from the person. Don't wait for them to be shipped. If they're within reasonable driving distance, same with any product you buy like that. If you can go pick it up, always go pick it up. Another thing there about the chem suits or chemical decontamination. Remember that you can make up your own kits. Powdered bleach is something you should buy a half pound or a half gallon of, depending on the containers you have, but powdered bleach. There are a number of other options there too. Even powdered soaps actually are part of the formula because if you if you have a chem suit or a chemical technology and you're wearing it, in some cases you may be splashed or it's a suspected spray. You have an oily spot. You have an area that's reflecting and appears to be viscous. That is a threat material. So you need to decontaminate that area as a policy to ensure that it doesn't spread. Okay, you want to knock it down where it sits. The other consideration, you still want to decontaminate because eventually you're going to be shucking this thing off, that gear you're wearing, and it's probably going to go into the biological waste bag. It's going to go into the trash bag. Then it's going to be locked down. You're not going to burn it. You're going to secure it. Yeah, I know that's not fun. You got to figure out what to do with this stuff. For the time being, you can encapsulate it. That's a term you all need to understand. Encapsulation. Encapsulate. You do this with asbestos. They don't take asbestos out. Phase one with asbestos removal or asbestos recognition was encapsulation. You want to make sure that you seal it so that it can't possibly harm anybody because it is like in a blister of material, paint. It can be any number of different special tape wraps, etc., etc., etc. Okay. Same is true with dealing with chemical spill, chemical waste, and decontaminated or contaminated material where you've done a decon and you've undonned the material, you've disrobed, and you are redonning an entire new kit, if you can. And that's where the balance comes in here. Remember, a lot of times, especially with what we're looking at, if a high biological weapons threat environment existed, even if you don't have the latest and greatest, remember, you're not going to stay in the environment. The objective is to give you time. You can breathe longer than 5 minutes. You can hold your breath only so long, then you're dead. You can breathe, and then you can move. And if you can move, you put distance. There's a term. I'm going to use the proper term. It's called ass to the blast. Remember, we've talked about this many times on the air. If you are at if you know you're at the center of a suspected event or of a up and coming threat, let's say, The idea is put as much distance between the suspected location of impact and where your butt is. And every foot that you move away from the epicenter does count, contrary to the naysayers, okay? Remember, ass to the blast. Get as far away from the epicenter or the probable epicenter of the event. If you know it's something has taken place on the ground, the idea is identify wind direction first. Identify wind direction. Look at flags. Look for pieces of plastic. What's the paper doing on the ground? Well, if the wind is traveling, you don't travel with the wind. You move upwind, away from the event. Don't travel with the wind. You're just cross-contaminating or recontaminating yourself. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia. I'm just now tuning in, so you might have mentioned this lately, but wasn't there a few years ago a pretty high-ranking Chinese general was giving a speech about using biological warfare against us? And so if they use biological warfare, then they're not destroying our infrastructure and all that. Could this be something that they were preparing for us based on the SARS virus, and it just, communist incompetence that got loose?
Well, or again, it was the idea, remember, you could tell somebody something's happening and promote it with a propaganda arm, and you hit somebody with a little chemical, and like I said, you start, hacking, coughing up. Think about what they're telling you with this SARS thing. Basically, all the symptoms they're describing, like, you've got a dry throat. Well, initially a dry throat, but, if it gets, really, don't do too much moisture, for instance. I love what they were doing here. Don't use too much. Don't drink a lot. That won't help you any. What do you mean that won't help you any? Well, hydration helps you no matter what. I want everybody to understand that one. But the basic symptoms and what this first phase is exactly the same as if you got attacked with CSCN. So you see, you've got everything set up for, it must be SARS. It's the Corona Mexican beer virus. They told me. I knew better. I don't drink Mexican beer. You know what I mean? Think about it. So the preparatory here is even the rumor. It's kind of like, it's like here's an example. The Mongol horde is coming. Nobody wanted to stick around to find out about whether or not the Mongol horde was really coming, because everybody had a good understanding of the history of the Mongol horde. So if you wanted to get everybody's ass in gear, just tell them the Mongol horde is coming, and it's amazing how motivated people can get and how blindly subservient they become. The same is true with a biological threat, because movies, television, and the propaganda through, everybody's mother's uncle controlled media outlet is going to try, strike fear into you, but only after they've told you. And Carl, think about this. How many times have they done movies and all kinds of other programs where you're just stupid for having a gas mask? You're just stupid for being prepared. You're dumb if you're into survivalism. You're stupid if you're into preparedness, if you're into a prepper. But wait, now we're going to panic you all because we're going to show you people with masks. And wait a minute, what does the government have on? Oh, look, they've got those chem suits on. And the government has the gas masks on. And in America, we could buy all that on the cheap, and we would be just as well outfitted as the government. And instead of being herded around like a bunch of cattle, we would be standing there as thinking human beings. It's kind of like when you have food on the shelf and government communists starve you and tell you how you need to do what they say because they'll starve you more if you don't. But they can't starve you if you all have food on the table and food in the larder because you have a closet full of food, which means you're evil and you're hoarding. Isn't it amazing how they arbitrarily hit the switch on this garbage? And it doesn't mean it isn't a real threat. I've said this for years. It's kind of like anything else. It's like tornadoes. You better be ready for them. If you live in a tornado belt, well, we live in a very wicked world where all sides have developed chemical and biological weapons. And like you said, stupid is really usually the point man for most government operations. Yeah, there he is, right there, Mr. Stupid. What's he got? I don't know, but all his pores are weeping blood. His eyes popped out of his sockets like a couple of ripe grapes. He's bleeding out of his ears. He's pooping out of his rear end in a really strange color that smells like death warmed over. And on top of that, he touched me. So yeah, I think I take it seriously in that it doesn't take, but I also treat it this way. Pretty much everything the government has, all of you can own here in the United States. All of it. I mean, if you look at what they're wearing, you can actually end up better prepared than most of the poor schmucks that are actually the second or even the first tier of what's dealing with what you're seeing on the controlled news. Short of the, if you want to spend it, you can buy closed air systems. Like I said, I got a whole pile of them, brand new, Scott Air Packs, brand new, never issued from 9/11. Okay, when they gave all that money to all these government agencies, and they went out and they spent it like there was no tomorrow. Well, they bought all this stuff, and then the new managers came in, and somebody said, "What's all this stuff?" Why, that's the emergency stuff in the event we're a terrorist attack and we have a chemical or a biological threat. Oh, you need to get rid of that. That's just taking up space. And you know what? When they do that, I never say a word anymore. Yep, you're right. You need to. And thank you very much. Elvis is leaving the building with all your stuff. And we did. So, again, here the big thing is if it's an intentional incident, it's as easily as not, it's fabricated, and all of the symptoms for all of these are pretty much so overlapping that it would be very easy for them to hit an area with a lesser agent, and that would be even easier to clean up, wouldn't it? If you got everybody in zombie mode, and they've all been conditioned by like Walking Dead and any of the other like the Ebola, remember, or when it was actually SARS has been in there before, and this is a knockoff of SARS. So all of the high metals really work well, gold and silver. I would recommend also tagging zinc. Remember, guys, you can do zinc over the counter. You can get zinc, magnesium, calcium. Recommend you do that. Calcium actually is a really good thumper for a lot of these. And they do make ionic calcium, which when ionic silver wasn't available, calcium is the next one that you can go to. If you can't get silver, ionic calcium or calcium is a good supplement that helps to knock down these kinds of problems. So there's another solution. Anything else, Carl, please? I know I'm long-winded there.
Yeah, I would say to add to your NBC kit, those stupid little metal badges for the concealed carry permit holder or whatever, those stupid badges, pick one of those up and have that with your kit. I remember on lobby day, I was with the QRF team about a half mile out from the event, and I happened to have one of those. And you have a homeless person walk up to you, you flash that to them, and all of a sudden they're not interested in panhandling anymore, and they don't want to be your friend. So if you got to put on MOP level 6 or whatever, and you got your a shiny little badge, because nobody actually reads it. They don't even want to get close enough to you to read it. You just show them that real quick, and all of a sudden they're not going to be questioning while you're wearing a gas mask and where you're going and what you're doing.
Just do the XX symbol, like not here, and point them in the other direction. That's all you got to do. And with the badge hangers are another one. In fact, there's who's got a bunch of those cheap. They're the ID hangers. Go over to militaryclothing.com. It's a tedious page, but if you go through it, they have some pretty good buys on some things. Militaryclothing.com. And they have the regular military hangers. They got a ton of them probably from one of the auctions, and they're cheap. I think they're like 90 cents or $1 a piece right now. And you just put something in there. That's what your color copy machine is for, guys. Make up something, put it in there. It'll work, like you just said. Half the battle is, remember, most everybody's looking at general. Is they're not using their thinking brain. They're usually in animalist mode by then, and they're going to be seeing a basic image of what is somebody with a gas mask, somebody with a chem suit, somebody with looks like has some authority. And I see an ID tag, and I'm going the other way.
Yep, and don't forget the body language. Be as arrogant as possible and disdainful, and look down upon them. And, remember, they're repugnant to you, so act that way. Yeah.
Now, that's another thing. You were in the peripheral. I've watched a lot of the videos, and, again, most people don't understand. There were several different tiers of police there, right? I mean, I've seen some of the images. Oh, yeah. The feds were there. The bat faggots, ATF, I've seen those for sure there. We've caught those on the ground. But one of the things one of the guys caught is there were the yellow vests that they let stay up front where everybody could see them for propaganda. But the others beyond them were all arrogant and were also disdained. They hated everybody. The body language, the expressions on their faces, they didn't want to talk to anybody. They were looking down on everybody. In fact, I think they were pissed, and I said this last night. They were pissed because they were told they were going to get to beat down on gun owners. They were going to get to do, to wag their big weenie in everybody's face. And the problem is they had to mind their P's and Q's because it didn't work out the way they planned. I'm sure they were thinking, well, we're going to cow everybody down. Nobody's going to show up, blah, 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 blah. And it didn't work that way. Plus, it was very negative if they tried to attack the main body. There were a lot of different groups moving around the peripheral areas, right?
Yeah, if they had tried Tiananmen Square on them, it would not have lasted very long. Between all the firepower right there of the main body and guys like me on the outside, there were a lot of other teams that we didn't even know about until long after the event. It would not have lasted very long.
Yeah, we're at the very top here. If you want to stick around again, we're going to come back up pretty quick. Guys, for everybody out there, nuclear, biological, and chemical defense is pretty much consistent across the board. The basics are all available, and they're not outrageously expensive. They are creeping, or they're just disappearing. Creeping up in price, they're disappearing, and that's going to happen. I already warned you about this months ago. Anytime, or for years for that matter, anytime that something happens, there's this split and peak, and then everything's gone. And that's what's happening and progressively going to be happening as this thing escalates. God bless our Republic. Death to the New World Order. We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The Empire's on the run. We're the march. We're going to get out of the way. Second hour coming up. Intel report. It's Friday. Cinco de Amo Day. It's Quartermaster Friday. It's for our friends on the ground across the state and in other locations outside the state of Michigan. Guys, be careful. Pay attention. Get plenty of pictures. And don't forget, we'll buy more pixel juice. Okay? Don't hesitate to take more pictures. We'll be back. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, east, northeast, and west. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on LibertyTreeRadio.4mg.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com in memoriam, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, which includes the great state of Jefferson and Conus, the outlying states, the outlying territories, and the clock. Right now it is 6:09 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the 31st of January. It is the 12th year of Open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist Occupation of America with the K 2020 Old Earth Calendar. I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. Oh, come on, Scotty. You can do better. Okay, I lied. I can give you 10% more. Well, maybe a little squeak after that, like a shot glass. Anyway, also 2020 year of conflict. And we get a caller. Who do we have?
Hey, it's Joe from Jig Radio. Just wanted to put it out there. If you're going to be watching the Super Bowl, there's a couple things in the news. One is that the NFL and Fox have decided not to air commercials about, strangely enough, people who survived the abortion. They were planning a commercial for this in pro-life. But they are airing the commercial, and they are having Roku or Rula or whatever that thing's name is, and that will have its own 50-year-old men dressing up in women's clothing and doing their being disgusting on television. That will be aired sometime. I don't know. I think it's a commercial that they're running. It's not anything in halftime, but that's what's going on as far as the culture is concerned. And it's just another reason why we should either boycott and not watch that thing. Don't waste your time. Or, if you feel that, you really must surrender the minds of your family to such stupidity, then you get what you ask for. So,
right. Actually, avoid the. If it looks like there's a few other pieces, there's going to be a Biden not Biden. God, might as well be Bloomberg, Biden. Who cares? Same difference. You're both groping pedophilic perverts. Okay. Bloomberg is supposed to have an anti-gun thing, I guess, in the middle of it, too, which is just oh so wonderful, which, by the way, the Oi boys that run the gladiatorial sports are ride shoulder to shoulder with and are rubbing butts and genitalia against each other even as we speak. They're all from the same clique. They all operate the same way, and they're all doing the same thing. So just a little heads up on that one. So it's basically going to be just a mass expansive perversion that's like avoid like the plague. Might as well not be there. You're better off in general. There are so many more things you can do. Of course, if you do have a lot of stuff that like can be sold to people who are interested in that, sell it to them. Sell it to them. Get your money out of it. Think about it. Yeah, it's wonderful. Next best thing is sliced white bread. Oh, yeah, very important. Well, whatever. And then get on with doing other things. Just a way to treat it. Part of the Americana they're trying to intentionally destroy. When you have a clique that, of course, created that Americana in this case, Football is masculine. They're trying to destroy the masculine thing. Supposedly everybody's going to have to be queer as a $3 bill and a poofta if they're in a football team, and anything but a white guy. So, I mean, that's pretty obvious. So expect to see that continue, and it's not going to be pretty. So I don't see why spending money or bothering with it is, it's worth your time. Some people, hey, you're doing your own thing. It's America anyway. We understand that. But I would ask questions. How are you benefiting from it? What is it doing for you? As opposed to what you might realize, what is it doing to you? Might be more likely the question. Okay, just one that fits better. Go ahead, caller. We got you.
It's John from Kentucky. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Very good.
We had a Second Amendment rally today in Frankfurt. I was not able to go. My apprentice went, and while in the crowd, he noticed quite a few people with earbuds stuck in the side of their head. And he made the assumption that these people with earbuds were probably police. And that's scary.
Well, no, that's expected. We hunt those people. If I can get someone like that to where I can, I'll be able to properly identify them. You don't hide from them. You try to be casual, but you get a picture of the front of them, the side of them, an angle from behind. This is a rare opportunity. We're going into a war. All those people are people that need to be known.
Would this be a good opportunity to use a backpack signal generator to disrupt, make noise?
Well, that'd be. Well, that's what we were kind of discussing. You can put a bigger signal generator. It wouldn't have to be backpack mounted. It could be in a vehicle nearby, and it would pretty well crud everything. The dirtier the signal generator, the more up and down the spectrum it would interfere. And they wouldn't really, initially they wouldn't understand or believe that that's something that we would be thinking about. Okay, in other words, in their minds, we're all the, mindless lemmings and, like a bunch of sea lions. And in reality, it's just like one of the things that we're prioritizing work on this week and for the next couple of weeks are microwave cannons. I'm going through my inventory of microwaves that we saved up and disassembling all of them now, taking them apart, saving some space that way, taking the metals and everything that can be surplused for or used for other, metal projects. That goes somewhere else. The guts and the material, which typically in all these microwaves that people get rid of, it's only because they're leaking or they're sparking or whatever. Well, that's good. That means that the main tube is still working. And that is a cannon. That's a microwave gun in the making for so many useful purposes. Well, if it's free and you got it for nothing, it only takes a little bit of time. You can hook up the cannon to a number of different tools. You got the old satellite dishes, the small pie plate ones that are all over the place. They give you a new one every time you buy a service, and they leave the old one typically there. Well, or if they're going to take it down, hey, what are you going to do with that? Well, we're going to throw them away. Oh, I want that. And there's a directional dish for your microwave cannon. If all else fails, a real cheap one, it's wintertime. I have about 20 of these kitty snow saucers. They make great microwave cannon projectors or wash projectors for an area with the tube, and they will smatter everything in their path. And they also rattle people if you stand in front of it long enough, because it's not shielded, but any microcircuitry, anything that, diodes, I've warned you about this many times, guys, diodes, EMP, but also microwave, pops them first time. That's why you want to have lots and lots of spare diodes in your inventory. I do, because I know what's coming. So if I have to fix something, I've got the basic components sitting there on the shelf, already shielded, already, ready to go. But that's another one. Microwave cannons, signal generators. The dirtier it is, the more that all the finals are opened up and all of the filters are off, the nastier it is at disrupting all transmissions in the area. Here's another mean thing you can do with that too, though. If you want something, you want to have some fun with the bad guys, wouldn't you like to tell them, we are the Borg. It is futile to resist. Resistance is futile. You will be absorbed. You do realize, guys, if you use a dirty signal generator and you broadcast something on it, your telephones will hear it. I don't mean your cell phones. I mean it'll broadcast through your wires in your house. Anything with a radio, the car radio that's off. You ever had that? Have you ever had that happen with a broadcast nearby and it goes right through a speaker where the radio is shut off? It used to happen all the time with the linear amplifiers on CBs. A guy would be driving by, and you'd have the car parked, and all of a sudden you're hearing something on the radio. There's such a strong signal, in the area that if he was passing and you were like at the Gulf station, all of a sudden you hear the blah 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 blah, and it would fade off because the guy's doing 45 miles an hour and he's moving away from you. Well, if it's static, that's what it'd be for however many yards or half mile or miles you choose to make it, depending on how much energy you put behind that really, 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 really dirty signal generator. It's like a radio mine. Actually like a null broadcast. But you could broadcast on it. It's futile to resist. You will be absorbed. The New World Order will die. It is futile to resist. You will be absorbed. The New World Order will die. Repeat, repeat, repeat.
Cool.
Yeah, it's easily done too. In fact, if you have a CB, what you do is take all your filters and all of your shielding off of the unit, because typically they're shielded so you don't burn everything else out within reasonable distance. There's a number of different tricks that can be done. You can also intentionally, make it directional too. An omnidirectional antenna can be used to direct the signal to a degree, so which means you can pump even more signal into. It's kind of like, have you ever had a CB radio or a handheld older style walkie-talkie with a single rabbit ear? And what do? You stand there and you turn. Oh, the signal gets stronger. Right, because the signal's coming from over that way. Well, guess what? If you actually move the antenna and you're broadcasting, your signal can be directed effectively also, so that a larger percentage is moving in a particular direction towards an objective radio, the target that you're trying to reach. So just a heads up, you've already done it. You may just not have thought about what you were doing when you had it in your hand. So we're just trying to remind everybody, there's all kinds of cool tricks out there, and you've got them pretty well at your fingertips right now. And they all work, by the way. You can take, somebody's asking right now, the best choice, the 90-watt Amana radar range. There's still a bunch of those out there, and if you have any Amana radar ranges that people are chucking out by the road, usually because they're dirty and they're old, but they're big. Well, that 90-watt unit can be boosted to 300 watts. And it costs you a few dollars. I think it's about $60 in additional parts. And you can take that 90-watt microwave tube, boost it to 300 watts, and use it for either satellite uplink or turn it on a target and just start flooding them with microwave radiation. Take your pick. But actually, what its original idea was to build a satellite uplink system. However, we found that it works really well with fly-by-wire aircraft, and it works really well at knocking down drones. See, everybody wants to shoot at the drones and do all this other stuff. Guys, two things. Either interfere with that signal generator and block out everybody's signal, interrupt any orders that could possibly be gotten, or a little tougher air defense. But remember, you got a microwave cannon that can reach out however far, miles, and you can identify the signal using a signal counter, using a survey meter. You can identify the frequencies that are most commonly used by the drones up and down the dial. You scan for those. You use your scanner to directionally identify. Remember what I said earlier about that single rabbit ear? Use the rabbit ear to identify the basic direction that the drone is broadcasting from. And then in the process, you turn around and to use the microwave cannon with optics, for instance, you can scan and you zero on the target, wash it as many times, or lock on and stick with it, especially if it's hovering and trying to monitor. And it won't be hovering for very long. It'll take only about 3 to 5 seconds, and it's coming down. So there's all kinds of swatting flies. It's just electronic swatting flies. And the smaller the drone, the harder it falls, the quicker it falls. There's something to think about there. Well, they got all these micro drones. We'll treat them like, what do you do with a bug zapper? Think about it like a bug zapper with a lot more fun, because you're hurting the other side. There's all kinds of cool stuff. They're going to have swarms. Yeah, well, the microwave cannons we're talking about would just swat them like dozens and hundreds of bugs. You got piles of little bastards laying all over the place. You got to start shoveling them up and pitchforking them into the back of the pickup truck and sending them over to your little landfill. Not really.
You can test them out on your neighbors.
Yeah, well, that's the other option. If you have enemy infantry, you broadcast across the battlefield or you target an area, and you have cumulative damage. This is what they're doing to us. They actually, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're washing different areas with microwave. They've got bigger technology still from over the horizon, and we're not supposed to know about it, that's all, which we do. So it's not like we're shocked and amazed.
You were talking yesterday about, egging on those that want their vengeance. And I was thinking about that, and I thought, for the Christian, it is vengeance is for the Lord only. But
yeah,
not
these people are past that.
Hold up. Not everybody in the militia is a Christian.
Right.
And so you'll have people who, they'll just have no moral compass whatsoever, and they're just going to go after these guys with vicious intent. And, unfortunately, they might hurt people along the way and just give no second thought to that.
Well, my problem there is you're at war now. The whole world changes. The world is not going to be a happy place. It's getting worse by the minute. If we let it go any farther, you're looking at reckless slaughter and abandon on the part of your enemy. We've got to put an end to it. So it's just that you're going to end up in conflict. You do the best you can. But the other side, they aren't planning on showing any mercy. All we have to do is look at their history. There's 100 million Christians that are Chinese, Japanese, American, European of all trades, Middle Eastern of all trades that have been the target of the international communists for as long as they have been open and in your face. And they're not changing their ways. They're telling you they want to do to you here what they've done everywhere else.
And you have said many occasions, study not the ways of your enemy, lest his ways become your ways. And, if we don't rise to, a higher standard, then what difference are we to our enemy, and what difference will we be in the future to our enemy?
Right. Oh, but when you're at war, you use all the weapons at your disposal. Always remember that without hesitation. See, that's the problem. You're dealing with war, a time for peace and a time for war, a time to live and a time to die.
But that doesn't change our moral compass, though.
Well, your morals, your base morals are consistent, but when you're fighting the enemy, again, you already given the opportunity. When you have, as I've said many times, you didn't pick the house up and put a bayonet on it and run it down the road. They've come to us. We've done everything. Everything we were morally responsible to do, we have done in spades. I'm looking at the fourth wave of we can vote them. Well, actually, the 10th wave for my lifetime. We can vote them out. Really? Now we can have an effect. Now, I'm going to tell you right now. Example, for all the propaganda and garbage that they generated with Hutari, guys. Dave Stone is the council head of his township. Dave Stone from Hutari. You hear him on the air here. The townships are working. They're all working together, and he's working to make it happen to deal with the Second Amendment issue right now. And it's going gangbusters. Everybody is pissed. Now, if anybody has had some hate put on them and lies put on them, how about Hutari with all the garbage that was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, and it came out? But of course, they don't dwell on it. Everybody goes to all of the computer references they always go to all of the lie sections. But they don't follow up with by the way, it was all a lie, and it was all admitted in court that it was a lie. Oops. But you see, that's where we have this situation. We have done all in our power. We are now at the point where there is the transition, and we go to war. And with war, the objective is to utterly destroy your enemy, utterly crush them in every way that we possibly can, and we have to.
And to that point that you made before, to be like Pontius Pilate, when the Jews made the decision to slaughter their lamb, Pontius Pilate said, he brought out the bowl, he put the water in the bowl, took his hands, washed it, and said, I have done, like you said, we've done everything possible to stop this from happening. We've talked to them. We've called them up on the phone. Please be nice. Don't hurt innocent people. They don't listen. And so you have to at some point say, my hands are clean of this.
It's time.
I have warned you.
Exactly. It's time.
Okay.
We have another caller. Caller, jump in there. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia. I just want to point out, I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we think there's going to be parts of this war that we're not proud of. I mean, there's going to be, little aspects of various battles and skirmishes and targeted killings and stuff that we're just not going to want to talk about in the end when it comes to the history books. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's just not going to get written down, stuff that we're not proud of.
Well, it will be.
It's just how any war is.
Yeah, well, let's point something out there. You see, it's a matter of how close you are to the history, okay? And I'll give you an example. This is why, Carl, for all of you listening, guys, everybody, when I read a lot of stuff, it's like, well, what are you reading? Where'd you get this from? Oh, from a book printed that I own from 1811 or from like 1798, an original printing, first copy. Histories that were done during that period. A friend of ours, he might be listening tonight, he has a collection of it's the battle diaries of the militia units of the War of 1812. It's not one book. It's about 23 books. It's literally the unit by, minute by minute, or day by day accounting of the step-by-step actions of these units, including all of the interactivity, food consumption. It's dull. Some of it is, but most of it is not. And what's fascinating is that it gives the actual accounts of the command activities. Now, the farther you get away from an event, and by the way, these cover the good things and the bad things, and all the other problems that arose, because what they needed was a factual accounting so you can correct mistakes. So the problem is, as you get farther away from the event, there's less space made available. And like you said, maybe they don't want everybody to remember it, not just because it's bad for, say, us to remember it, but it's bad for them to have us remember it if it was an effective way to get rid of the problem and it neutralized the powers that be, their way to manipulate and have authority over us or assumed authority over us, because that's really what this is all about, assumed authority. That they don't have the authority. We just, for whatever reason, through propaganda, the public school system, which used to have an education process, and now it's an indoctrination process, which always happens with communism. And because of that, we have the product that we have now, as opposed to then when we had a different way of teaching people. The moral guidelines for any activity and the foundation of our society was our Christian belief, period. For this nation. And there is, but, and here's a big but, remember that government was supposed to be subservient and always turn to and look for a moral compass from the church. Period. No matter what anybody says. The government is not doesn't have a moral compass. Given the opportunity being neutral, it is amoral. Then when everybody says, oh, there's a total separation of church and state, if you get that, you get what we're talking about, communism. And I would point out that, yes, we did have an indoctrinational process here. The first books authorized, if you might recall, certainly we did the Readers, but one of the first books authorized for printing by the Congress was the Bible. And nobody wants to talk about that, because that doesn't fit with the commies' rewrite of history.
What you're talking about there is the doctrine of two spheres. And Hitler was good at that. He told the German people, when you go into your church, this is, you accept one church authority. But the minute you step out of that church, you're under a different doctrine and a different authority. And it's two different things. It's a false doctrine, and it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold water.
Well, the problem is when you're separate. Okay, that's where, and again, if you don't have that moral base, what is the foundation? Every society has this. The only society that's supposed to not have it is America and the European nations, which all of their works are founded upon. And the enemy knows this. Why do you think it was the first thing they did? First, you get the public fool system plugged in, and then, of course, you attack. Well, the Christian system is in there. Yeah, and then the first thing you exclude is the Christian system. Now, the Jews are still in there. The Muslims are in there. The Buddhists are in there. The witches are in there. The Wiccans, the warlocks, the Satanists, they're all in there, but not the Christians. The people paying for it, who, by the way, are also the majority, you're paying for your own destruction. That's the other part we've talked about forever on this program. You're paying for your own destruction, and we have to put the kibosh to that. And the only way it's going to happen now is to get rid of them. Go ahead.
Communism doesn't stand under within Christianity, and because there is, it's like just doing a little writing about the Jews and the temple, and every conquering nation that sought to conquer the Jews wanted to get rid of the temple because they can't get the Jews to assimilate into them as long as that darn temple is there. If they're still offering sacrifices, then they have their own culture, then they have their own mindset, and they cannot be assimilated into it. But the minute they can convince people that Christianity is old and outdated and it needs not be paid attention to, they can get you to accept their doctrine as demented and satanic, and that will be what the NFL is going to do with their commercial with the transgender nonsense. It's just one little chip, one little thing that your mind will see on the television, and you will be programmed just a little bit more to accept what it is that they're doing.
Now, another thing real quick. Oh, hell, we're past the bottom of the hour. Oh, well, we're going to keep right on going, guys. We had a couple of things that I was going to plug in. I think we'll wait off on the music requests. So, guys, forgive me, especially for, let's see, who do we have? For Jill. Okay, Jill, we'll probably fit something in maybe at the very, very end of the program here. We'll see. Or we'll wait till the 8 o'clock hour. How's that sound? I'll have to pass it on to Edward. So for Jill, be patient. And, again, I know we catch Ken with our music requests, by the way. Another thing here real quick, again, with regard to up-and-coming events, at some point they've got to jump off in Virginia, okay? If you notice how everybody was kind of like, the 20 day, it came and went. It came and went with neither side happy completely. People are going, well, we brushed the bullet there. Yeah, okay, you see you kick the can down the road, but there's not a single element of the other side that was satiated. In fact, as soon as everybody left, they just told everybody they're going to go right ahead and do what they've been doing, didn't they? So the game is in motion. Now it's going to switch from being in Richmond, that's the front for the bureaucracy, out to where the rubber meets the road, where the population has to be affected. Not maybe, not kind of, not sort of. This has to go into application mode. Now, to do that, they have to, just like that British officer back on April 19th said, they got to ransack and they got to rub our face in the mud or in the cow pie or whatever. They got to wag their weenie in our face, pee on our backs while they're holding our face down in the cow pie with a boot on our neck. That's coming. The attempt is coming. Now, to what degree and how aggressive? Again, like I said, I say it's threes. Everything has been in threes so far. With regard to where they're practicing, somewhere in Virginia they're practicing right now. It may be in West Virginia also. I would point out that Fort Campbell, Kentucky, special warfare site, just like Fort Hood, Texas. The thing is, since Fort Campbell is a restricted area in many, many ways already, it's a perfect location for the skanks and the ATF and the Mossad to set up a preparatory class and instructional and then a demonstration area where they can practice. So I would be looking at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the two established and well-documented advanced urban warfare areas. Both are well-developed. Both look like standard American villages. They could add a few more instructional barriers or a change in the terrain a little bit, or structures, which can be done with plywood and pallets. And they could map out a community that is the target for the next action, or communities. I believe there'll be 3. Now, the question is, who are the noisiest of the bunch in Virginia? That's what you need to be watching for. Another thing is where can they have the greatest effect, because they also want to try to be able to move in, do the dirty deed, and get away with the punch without the probability or possibility of a response or even a reaction. Let's put it this way. Think of it as Black Hawk Down. Remember what Black Hawk Down, the foundation for the whole thing was. The government spooks and kooks were going out to arrest legitimate local politicians. They were going out to kidnap them. For all their brag, that's all they were doing. All they were thugs on wheels going to kidnap local political authority. That's what's going to happen in Virginia. That's what's coming. Go ahead, caller.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia. Let's not forget, we got a great big FEMA camp in Farmville, Virginia, which if you look on a map of Virginia and just put your finger kind of in the geographical center of the state, that's pretty much it.
Very good. Well, that is as likely as not one of the locations that needs to be prioritized. Seriously, that's one that needs to be observed, and one of the things that can be done is to do also, again, they don't have to be flying over. If the airspace is restricted, guys, with modern camera technology, it's like our guys, we can do not quite over the horizon, but we can do oblique image collection or overhead image collection. It doesn't make any difference. The quality of the digital camera technology that we have is as good as anything that the other side has. So remember that, you can still, understand and know where the restrictions are, and then survey the area nonetheless to confirm or deny what are suspicions. And we got lots of private aircraft. And in fact, for that matter, here's another trick we've used many times. You've probably seen it if you watched any of the Hutari videos, like I mentioned Hutari earlier. Balloons with tethered cameras. Let them go up. Put a spider eye set of cameras on the balloons. Use a wind vane so that you can generally orient the balloon configuration. And guess what? You've got height, and you can look down and into an area without violating their quote-unquote airspace restrictions. There's all kinds of mean tricks. All of them work, by the way, depending on the situation. So this is one of the things that we need to be looking at. Virginia is a primary. Then there are going to be 2 other states where they are going to enact or act at the same time that they do Virginia. Here's the problem. They don't have to really wait to add any more. It's like Virginia is the benchmark. I'm going to remind everybody, New York is already bought and paid for, guys. It's been 6 going on almost 7 years. This is 2020. It's the 31st of January. Guys, Obama got basically all the anti-gunners got their wet dream, and everything they wanted was passed in New York, but it isn't being acted upon. For the same reason, you see what's happening in Virginia now that people know the threat. Had they performed on just one state, like New York by itself, back with Obama in, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd already be in this war. They already have a mag ban. They already have a gun ban. And they have something that the others don't have and haven't gotten yet. They've got full ammunition registration, mandatory, but they haven't implemented it because they can't make the software work with the contractors that were proposing to execute the task. Now,
and don't forget the inability to organize and equip as militia. I think that has also been done away with in Virginia, has it not?
Well, they're trying to. I don't know if that was passed with the 7. In fact, Carl could answer that. There's 7 that they passed. Was that one of them?
Yeah, they're pretty much getting every single thing they want. So if it's been proposed, it's passing.
Right. So as far as, like I said, this year, what's happened is if people are thinking, well, Mark, they'd have to do a couple other states. They've already got New York and Connecticut. They just haven't acted on New York and Connecticut. But Virginia is a linchpin. Now, Virginia, the way I see this, and I've mentioned this a couple times in passing, the way I see this is the skanks, the Israeli mafia that is manipulating our country, is securing the peripheral area around the District of Criminals. They are securing the duchy, the international landing zone. And Virginia is crucial to that. So, and the biggest piece of real estate of the bunch that they actually have to worry about. The rest are all smaller chunks of real estate that they already have reasonable control over, or at least manipulate. I mean, come on, Massachusetts? Everything's illegal in Massachusetts. It's like I said in American Peril 30 years ago. Everything will be illegal. Well, at a certain point, you won't care, right? It's like, who cares? If somebody was talking to me, we were talking earlier about that with another friend. It's like, well, you're going to need a license. It's like, no, you won't. Who's going to enforce it? But you'll need a license. But no, nothing. There's no license for anything. When this kicks in, it's like the only thing you're worried about is making sure the equipment runs and runs right. And I don't care what it is. There is no such thing. Our aircraft, we're going to worry about a license or markers on the planes. What difference will that make? Radio communications, you need a license for a ham? Really? Do you think so? All of you, I've told you a million times, you can own a ham radio and you don't have to have a license, and you should be buying one now. Why?
Yeah, we're going to be under Zimbabwe rules, which means there are no rules.
Right, exactly. And right now, South Africa's going the same way, guys. If you haven't been paying attention, they just stated uncategorically, they passed a law, they can take all the property from all the farmers now. Kill the farmers, kill the white people, kill all the white people, blah, 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 blah. Really? So it's like, okay, and now those are the same people that are pushing it there, are pushing it here. You do all understand that, right? Same Israelis over there that are doing it to South Africa, are doing it to Europe, doing it to America. Know who your enemy is.
Mark, isn't that the whole point of this, the fact that they've taken over so much of our lives illegitimately, illegally? Unlawfully.
So much, yes, in the
and
process.
All of this licenses and permissions and everything, the people that come out to try and enforce that during the war, I feel sorry for them.
No,
Not really.
Their life expectancy is pretty much in the toilet. Okay, it's
remember
first.
Down in Arkansas and Kentucky, what would they call those people when they came up to get the money from your alcohol sales from your still?
I don't know.
Revenuers.
Revenuers, son. I think they called them revenuers.
Yeah.
Also, bullet magnets. I think that was another term.
Hoorah.
Yeah. Here, hold my bullets for me, Buford. I told you not to ride with them. Boom. Oh, that hurt, didn't it? And so, yeah. That's well. You see, this is one of the problems that the bad guys don't really understand, and I don't care if they do. I mean, but for all of you out there, guys, you're talking to a backed-up toilet. You're talking to a dirty table that needs to be scrubbed clean. All of the nasty, messy jobs you can think of, the nasty messiness is there's no possible intelligent conversation with it. You're dealing with vomitous filth. The socialists, the communists you're dealing with, all of them, well, we need to be reasonable. Well, I'm going to be reasonable. I'm going to give you a chance to leave. That's your last reasonable now. I'm giving you a chance to leave. I'll be reasonable.
Reasonable is taking a careful aim and only firing one shot because you only need one shot.
That's right, because I don't want to waste ammo and I don't want to hurt other people. I know who I want to hurt, and I want to hurt them really bad. See, that's the part I have to embrace. It's tough. I'm going to tell you again, guys, there's a whole series from World War II. Americans are nice people. We really are. We're nice people. We're nice people because we've had a decent time, okay? And they had a hard time convincing people to be mean on the battlefield. That's a fact. If you look at all the different, there's a whole series just on the idea, even in a brawl or a hand-to-hand fight, we're trained to be fair, okay? But in the fight that you're going into against the globalists, the New World Order, the police state, it's slaughter them. That's the only option you have. They are the most wicked creatures you could possibly imagine. Those cops that were in Richmond, my attitude, like I said, I've watched them. I've seen people like this. I've been around lots of people, criminal minds like this. those cops were murderers. Those cops hated and were fuming over the idea that they had to put up with the peasant gun owners, and that the governor and that the mayor weren't letting them go to town, even though it would have been a very, very equal, killing opportunity guideline situation. Everybody gets an equal shot. In their mental midget mind, they were frothing and fuming that they couldn't murder the gun owners or beat them down at least.
Well, Mark, can I chime in on this fighting fair? Yeah, so if you think you're going to fight fair and you're going to be chivalrous and you're going to, allow your enemy to get back up before you go at them again, or you're going to wait till they pick up their gun. No. I will remind you of the book of Judges. Read up on Ehud. So Ehud, he had an army of Israelites, and they were going up against the Ammonites or Amorites, can't remember. And Ehud went to have a meeting with the king. Now, previously he had strapped a custom-made short sword or dagger to his right thigh, the inside of his right thigh. And so when he went to see the king, who he was going there just to pay him tribute, so he brought him a chest of goodies. And he said, I need to speak with you secretly in private. I have a message from my God. And then the king sent everybody away, all the servants and bodyguards away. And behind closed doors, he says, I have a message to you from God. Pulls out the sword and thrusts it through him. And the king was a fat man. And he was so fat, and the sword was shoved so far in that his fat actually enclosed over the handle. And after that, Ehud snuck out the back door and linked back up with his army. So he cut off the head of the snake, and while the machine was leaderless and in confusion over what to do or how to do it, his conventional force, the army, went in and wiped out the enemy forces. So did he play fair? No. Was he a coward? No, not at all. What he did took balls of steel, and it paid off. So don't fight fair, fight effectively.
Right, and don't think the other side is bragging about. This is one of the things that I'm sure, like I told everybody before the 20 Jan 20 date, guys, I can picture what they were doing. They're getting them all puffed up. They're going to go beat down, that we're going to let them in, and they're not going to have a clue about what we're going to do. Blah, 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 because you got to puff up, especially, again, the groups that you didn't see, they were the ones who were going to come out and supposedly just roll up the carpet. And they found out the carpet was, not quite what they expected. So there was this neutral point. And that's why I said there was a fuming. On our side, there was a bunch of milling. And it's because you're at that point where it's time. It could have been that. That could have been the time right there as easily as any other. We are in the age of epic. We are in the window of opportunity. It is not an if. It is now only a when. And we all need to be of right mind in this. The next thing now that everybody is poo-pooing or naysaying is the whole idea about the Second Amendment sanctuary county thing. Well, what good is it? Well, who's telling you that? Well, the pricks on the other side mostly. Why? Because what are they trying to do? They're trying to probe to figure out how they can break your resolve, which is why when I've gotten to this discussion, the next step is now that they've acted, step one in the declaratory phase was what you saw with everybody stepping forward. And, Carl, everybody needs to talk about this in your state. Step two is to take a page from the very founding of this nation. It is time for the counties to set resolves and to send resolutions, a resolve to Richmond. And the resolve is very straightforward and easily understood, and they're going to try to spin on it. They're going to try to, I guarantee they'll try to use everything they can to not let people look at where did this idea come from. It's part of the foundation of not just the state of Virginia, but the foundation of the United States and our liberty, our freedom, our ability to be separate from the crown. And it needs to happen in steps. It needs to happen, but it needs to be accelerated. The other thing is, I don't know how seriously the counties are taking, and I think that's their logic. How many were just thinking this is a nice comment, but they're not going to put any ass behind it? You have to be prepared to fight, or at least you better be organized. Okay, go ahead, please. I've interrupted twice. I heard you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of the counties, the supervisors are all just doing it because it seems like the popular thing to do, and they're going to, if they don't do it, then they're going to have some explaining to do the next time they're up for re-election. So I think that's a big part of it. As soon as state funding comes into play and things like that, then all of a sudden they're going to be, well, we need to compromise, or we need to be reasonable. So the thing is, with this, as it is right now, we already know who the anti-gun people are. So, somebody on that board of supervisors, voted against it. Guess what? They're not going to get reelected next time. All right, we already know who they are. They played their hand. If they do, those who voted for it end up, saying, we got to be reasonable and backstep on it in order to secure funding for next year or whatever. Well, all right, those people their names are getting written down, and they're not going to get reelected. So that's just normal, regular, electoral process right there. That's not doing food rat stuff. That's just everybody can participate in this.
I guess I'd ask, in the county you're in, what is the situation? What does it look like where you are?
Well, ours, it passed in my county unanimously, and all the surrounding counties unanimously.
And so,
and all the sheriffs, and all the sheriffs signed off on a resolution that was just between the sheriffs. It is basically in full support of it.
Good. And that's, again, what needs to happen. A resolve in fact, if you can, anybody needs to sit down and talk to them and say, hey, you have the instruments that you can emulate, the documents, the instruments that you need to use to accomplish the task. And again, go to the Fairfax resolves. One of the most important things to remember is you don't have to. I listened to this right here with what happened in Monroe, okay, and other places, and we all got what we wanted out of it because at least our voices were heard. But the most important thing is we don't need to just say we support the Constitution, Bill of Rights. No, we all do that. That's a given. That's like saying, well, you don't have a right to own guns. It was only for hunting and fishing and not for shooting redcoats or shooting government, for that matter. Nonsense. It's a natural right of self-defense. It's as natural as the claw or the beak or the talon or the brute force of every animal in exerting the protection and defense of its life/liberty. Okay. A resolve and a resolution is to address a threat, and you have specific threats, and that's what the resolves and the resolutions need to address. Whichever term they wish to use, either is affected in the same way. Go ahead.
Well, Mark, when the whole sanctuary city thing started with regarding illegal immigration, that was the whole premise behind that is that city and state funding should not, or resources should not have to be forced to go toward enforcing federal law. And so, with that being said, then the sanctuary counties and sanctuary cities for Second Amendment should not have to have no obligation for enforcing federal law regarding guns as well. But that's something nobody's talking about yet.
Well, that's what, again, where we see that is out west in Missouri, Arkansas, and then, of course, we now have a flip-flop with Oklahoma, for anybody who hasn't paid attention. Remember, I was saying those three states seem to be doing some really interesting stuff. Bloomberg went out to Oklahoma. There's a good piece on guns and gadgets to bring everybody up to speed on that. The Oi boys out there immediately picked up, and his mouthpiece is another kosher mafia-type character, Murder Incorporated. That was the old Jewish mob, Murder Incorporated. Remember the old, the Untouchables? Yeah, go watch that series. Murder Incorporated. Why was it Maury? Wait a minute. Oh, look at the names. All right. Well, anyway, they're out there doing the same thing in Oklahoma that they're doing to you in Virginia. And it all hit like a light switch, guys. So for everybody out there, share wherever you can. Pass on the information about where some states have actually already preempted this and are moving very aggressively to not only beat it down, but to make sure it never raises its ugly head again. Those are the foundational points. Those are the benchmarks for what will be the friendly territory in this battle from the get-go. It's important, as we said, past the declaratory phase, we eventually get into the commitment phase. That's what we're talking about now. Preempted to, or I should say, a precursor to open conflict. God bless our republic. God bless the New World Order. Shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire's on the run. We're on the march. We'll be back in a little bit again. First hour, everybody stay right where you are. We're going to be second hour. We're going to leave. We got a break. Ed's taking over. More live LTR coming up here. And meanwhile, we'll be back at 8 o'clock for the evening intel report. God bless. Bye-bye.
And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along with the fight, we're born free, we're born forever free. Nice will pay the fight, we're boys, beat the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Say the price they're asking for is always pay the piracy. Never give up the